All right, so today we're really diving into the deep end, looking at AI and EU politics.
Yeah, it's a pretty hot topic right now.
It is, and we've got these two new articles from SAVOIRR. They're a political monitoring platform, right?
Right.
And they've come out with this new AI tool
Hmm.
that claims it can analyze like every public move an EU politician makes
Basically.
and sum up their whole stance, like just in a snap.
It's pretty remarkable, actually. It's not like, some far-off thing. It's happening right now.
Yeah.
SAVOIRR is using AI to make these political profiles, they call them.
Okay.
And it's all from real-world data, speeches, voting records, anything public, they say.
So it's like having, I don't know, like a super powered intern who just devours every boring policy doc out there.
Yeah.
And then just spits out like, okay, this politician, total hardliner when it comes to trade, but you know what? Surprisingly flexible on environmental issues.
Exactly. And you can imagine how valuable that is.
For anyone trying to make sense of EU politics, which, let's be honest, can feel impossible.
Especially with the EU Parliament. It's so complex.
Right.
But this could be a game changer, cutting through all that noise.
Yeah.
And potentially, this analysis could even be faster and more, comprehensive than what we're used to.
Okay, but my inner skeptic has to chime in here for a sec.
Sure.
Politicians, they can be slippery, right?
Yeah.
So how much can we really trust an AI to cut through all that?
You've hit on a really, really key point. We have to remember, AI is only as good as what you feed it, right?
Hmm.
And SAVOIRR knows this. They're not shying away from it. They say straight up that a good profile needs a ton of data.
So the more a politician puts themselves out there, the more reliable this AI profile is going to be.
Exactly. The AI needs that data. So if a politician's always in the public eye, giving speeches, doing debates, that's the good stuff.
Makes sense.
But for the quieter ones, the ones who aren't as vocal, well, there might just not be enough of a digital footprint for the AI to work with.
So it's like SAVOIRR's AI saying, come back to me when you've got more to say.
Essentially, yeah. Which I think highlights a fundamental thing about AI. It can only use what it's given. It's not reading minds. Not yet, anyway.
Okay, fair,
Yeah.
fair. But politics, it's always changing, right?
Always.
People change their minds, new info comes out, alliances shift. How does SAVOIRR keep up with that? Do they just make a profile and that's it, even if the politician does a total 180 on some issue a week later?
Well, that's where it gets really interesting because SAVOIRR actually recommends regenerating profiles pretty frequently,
Oh, okay.
especially after big events like parliamentary sessions.
Makes sense.
And they're very clear that they keep their database updated, so they're trying to stay on top of things.
Okay, that's at least reassuring, so it's not set it and forget it. But even with updates, are there other things we should be thinking about? Like, should we be cautious about this still?
Absolutely, and SAVOIRR is very upfront about that.
Yeah.
This tech, it's new, it's potentially a big deal, but it's not perfect.
Yeah.
They even have a disclaimer.
Oh, really?
Basically saying they're not responsible if the AI gets something wrong, or even how people interpret the information. So it's kind of like use at your own risk.
That's understandable, but it does give you pause. If even the people who made it are like, hey, don't come crying to us if this is wrong, makes you want to be a little skeptical.
It's wise to be cautious. I mean, we're still figuring out this whole AI thing, especially when it comes to something as, nuanced and impactful as analyzing politics.
Right, because the stakes are really high here. We're talking about shaping public perception,
Right.
even influencing elections, potentially.
Exactly. And that's why it's so important to remember that these profiles, they're just one tool.
They're not the be-all and end-all.
Exactly. Human judgment is still key. We can't just accept whatever the algorithm spits out.
It's like using GPS, right? It might get you close.
Yeah.
But you still got to pay attention to the road and make your own decisions.
That's a great analogy. And you know how you'd think about how accurate your GPS data is?
Yeah.
We have to do the same with AI. Be aware of any limitations, any biases, all that.
So what you're saying is, this SAVOIRR AI, it's cool, but it's not a crystal ball.
It's more like a very, very powerful microscope.
Okay.
It helps us look at certain parts of a politician's views in a lot of detail.
Mm-hmm.
But we still have to interpret what we're seeing, consider the bigger picture, and make up our own minds.
So the million-dollar question, how is this actually changing political analysis, and should we be excited, worried, or a bit of both?
That's what we need to figure out, right? And to do that, we need to dig a bit deeper into what SAVOIRR is actually trying to do here.
So we get what this AI companion does, but why? What's SAVOIRR's end game here? Are they Trying to, like, reinvent political analysis, or is this just a shiny new toy to get more subscribers?
Well, their whole pitch is interesting. They really play up the newness angle in their docs,
Okay.
calling it, innovative, groundbreaking, even saying it's not just new for their platform, but for, like, the whole field of political monitoring.
So yeah, there's a marketing spin for sure, but hype doesn't always mean it's actually useful.
Definitely not, but they also push the practical side of it. They're saying this AI companion can give a really comprehensive overview
Yeah.
of a politician, their stance, what they do.
And that's got to be appealing, right? If you've ever tried to make sense of EU Parliament data, just mountains of it.
Oh, I know.
A short overview, it's a lifesaver.
Seriously. And I give SAVOIRR credit. They're not just throwing this AI out there like, figure it out yourselves. They actually give guidance, explain how to use it.
What kind of guidance?
Well, like they explain how you can save a politician's AI profile right into their system so you can find it easily later, even put it in reports and stuff. They're thinking about how people will actually use this thing.
That's smart. It's not just about the tech itself, but how it fits into the real world. One thing that keeps coming up, though, is the language thing. They say it only works in English right now. Any idea why that is?
It's a good question. Could be purely technical. Maybe their AI is mainly trained on English data for now.
Or maybe it's strategic. Start with English, it's pretty dominant globally, then roll out other languages later.
Exactly. Makes sense, right? If they can crack that language barrier, think about how much bigger their audience gets. Analysts, journalists, researchers all across the EU.
Makes you wonder what their long game is. Are they focused on a niche market for now, or is it just phase one of something way bigger?
Hard to say, but the potential is huge, right? Imagine if language wasn't a barrier anymore for understanding EU politics. That'd be huge, especially for smaller groups who can't afford fancy translation.
Okay, so while we wait and see if SAVOIRR tackles the other languages, let's get back to accuracy. We've talked about the data it needs, the updates, but how much can we actually trust these AI profiles?
Right, and to really answer that, we got to look beyond what SAVOIRR says and think about what we know about AI in general, especially with something as, messy and unpredictable as politics.
It's kind of wild when you think about it, trying to make an AI that gets politics. I mean, humans have been arguing about this stuff forever.
It's true. Politics is messy, rarely straightforward.
Right?
So many layers and things left unsaid and the history behind it all. It's a lot to ask, even of, like, the smartest AI.
And then there's bias. Can an AI really be objective? Or is it always going to reflect, I don't know, whatever biases were in the data it learned from?
That's the big question. And to be fair to SAVOIRR, they do address it.
Okay.
They're upfront that their AI is still learning, changing even. And they're clear this is a tool for guidance, not like the ultimate truth.
So use it to get your bearings, but don't go making huge decisions based on it just yet.
Exactly.
Right.
Which is responsible, especially given how much this tech could change. How we talk about politics, even how decisions are made.
It's like we're at the edge of something brand new, and we got to be careful not to get so caught up in the excitement that we forget about the risks.
I agree. It's powerful, no doubt, but any tool can be used in the wrong way. It's on us, the humans, to make sure it's used ethically.
It's kind of deep, isn't it? We make these super powerful AIs, but ultimately it comes down to human judgment anyway.
It really does make you think bigger picture, you know. The more advanced AI gets, it's not just what can it do, but what should we do with it? And that's a conversation everyone needs to be in on. Not just the tech people, but policymakers, everyday people too.
Because the choices we make now about AI, they'll have consequences for years, especially in something as important as politics.
Absolutely. And it's not just about avoiding bad outcomes. It's about using AI to make things better, a more informed public, more engagement, a more level playing field politically.
So, wrapping up our deep dive into SAVOIRR's AI companion, I think what we're left with is huge potential, not a magic solution.
Well said.
It needs to be used thoughtfully, critically, and ethically.
And like with anything new, I think a little curiosity goes a long way. Willingness to learn, and always that goal of using it for good.
And hey, a little healthy skepticism never hurt either, just in case.
Never hurts. Because the future of politics, just like AI, it's wide open. And it's on all of us to shape it the right way.